Shobi from Zapa. My question is for the three candidates. I just want to find out, why do you think the people should vote for each of you? And another question is, while we understand that you do not disagree with the fundamental principles guiding Singapore, what kind of changes you hope to see in Singapore? Thank you.
Maybe I'll ask them to answer in the reverse order. Vikram?
Okay. I think, well, to be honest, I think what I can bring to the table as a candidate is that I've had about 3 years of experience on the ground. I think I've grown to understand a lot of the issues that I've seen in the two areas. I've seen some good MPs at work, and I think I should be able to bring some measure of that, to whichever constituency I'll be at. So I think that experience hopefully will count for something, and I will serve any residents I'm with, with all my heart. As for what I would like to see changed, I think by and large, I'm here because I think a lot of the policies are in the right place, but I think, you have to also keep your eye on the horizon for what may need to be changed. And I think there are two examples I'll highlight. One is, recently I think we've had a slew of property cooling measures put in place. And I think that's probably the right measure if you're looking at a place where there's a lot of liquidity being generated in the West coming over here. You see rising prices, you see inflation, so you want to sort of take some of the liquidity out. But right now we've just had a disaster in Japan. The Asian markets have been badly hit. So there's quite a high risk that some of that liquidity might actually move away. So if we see that situation changing, for example, we see a lot of money running away from Asia, then you may need to remove those measures. So that's, I guess, one area where you may want to keep your eye on policy open. I'm not sure the time is right for change, but you need to keep an eye on it. The second area, and I think this was a bit more controversial because I think when MM Lee raised it, it drew quite a bit of criticism. But I also think the retirement age is something we want to look at. And one of the things I think is we may not even need a statutory retirement age. And the reason for that is very simple. The retirement age is basically a rule that says, once an employee hits a certain age, you can remove them for no other reason apart from the fact they've hit that age. So here it's 62, right? So in one way, it seems quite unfair because, once a person hits 62, that doesn't mean they can no longer perform the functions. So, if you take away the retirement age, then what you have is a system that basically says, yes, people can work for as long as they want. If they can't perform the job anymore, if they want to do a lesser job, then you can renegotiate the contract. But that's quite different from saying that, you are leaving just because of the retirement age. And I think a lot of people perceive this as a policy that, says Singaporeans have to work forever. But that's not really the case. It really is a policy that gives you the option to work for as long as you want. If you want to stop working anytime, that's entirely your prerogative. So those are just two samples. If I think about more, I'll come up with them. Yeah.
Right. Why vote for me? Yes, I'm new. I come with no political experience. I've had a couple of years of grassroots experience. But I bring to the table my conviction in what is right. I'm not afraid to stand up and speak up when I see something is wrong. And I bring that conviction to the table. I empathize with my residents, and in my grassroots work and experience, at least I've been told that I do get along with my residents well. I'm able to connect, and I think that's the first task of a Member of Parliament, to understand the needs of its constituents and residents so that, if necessary, can be translated into adjustments made at the national policy level. Secondly, in part, because of my training as a lawyer, I bring to the table a degree of critical thinking. I always try to challenge assumptions. I don't accept no easily as an answer. And I look behind policies and I question the assumptions that go into it. And I think that is an effective and viable contribution that can be made in Parliament when policies are being debated. As to what changes I would like to make, you've heard me say earlier that I believe that our core values are strong. We should maintain them. I don't, at the moment, have a core policy or value that I want to change. But I would say this. I think in today's generation, what is different from what we are now in 2011 compared to perhaps 15, 20 years ago would be the interest and the general education level of the population. I think it's gone up. If you look around, people are generally more interested in what's happening around them. They're interested in the people who make decisions that affect them. And if you just go on the internet, you will see that lots of interest groups give lots of different views. They're no longer the apathetic youth that you may have come across 20 years ago. So I think one area of change which I would like to see is the way in which the government would engage the electorate, engage the people, and get feedback at a time when policies need to be looked at and perhaps changed. One example in recent times that I found quite enlightening and perhaps illustrates the point is when a couple of years back we had to reduce the number of COEs that were available. I think when it was first announced, it was a pretty drastic cut. And then various interest groups, stakeholders of the industry came together and they gave their views. And it was heartening to see that the government took on those views. And then they decided to calibrate the way in which the COEs could be reduced over a period of time so that the harsh effects of that would not be immediately felt. And I felt that that was a very nice way of making sure that the policy intent is achieved, but at the same time, in the manner of implementation and application, one takes into account how that might affect the person on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why vote for me? I think I can think of three reasons. Number one, I'm used to stepping back and planning on what things need to be done. I'm thinking through the issues and working with all the inputs coming in and formulating a policy that will be able to be executed well. I'm also very accustomed to rolling up my sleeve and going onto the ground to implement and execute alongside with my colleagues and my fellow trade unionists to work through the various obstacles that may come the way and think on our feet and get things sorted out and get things resolved. But thirdly and more importantly, I think one of the things that I bring to the table is the ability to leverage and work with others, whether it be grassroots leaders, whether it be union leaders, whether it be employers, training providers and the likes of them, the ability to work with others and not resting on your own resources or your own strength will be something that I believe can bring a lot of solutions and initiatives down to the residents in order to see their needs being met in a more expeditious manner. What would I like to see change? I think there are three things the government can do better. The first is to probably communicate better. Let me cite a good example. For example, the PUB has a ABC program, Active, Beautiful and Clean program. It's a very clear and simple way to communicate to people what a very complex policy and issues they're trying to address. They're trying to make a living environment clean and green and beautiful for everyone. And they come out with a very good package of information to share with people. I think many other agencies can take examples from this, and I would like to see more of them doing this to communicate a bit better. Second, access. I want to see probably better access to government schemes and policies beyond e-government. Let me cite another good example. For example, you look at CPF recently had a Papaya Sisters going down to the grassroots to share about workfare. I think that is an excellent way of communicating to people about what is available instead of saying that, yes, you should have the internet. It gives you efficiency. But you also have to have effectiveness, reaching out to the people who best need the resources and services. And the third area is to help people navigate. Let me cite another good example. For example, Spring Singapore has a one-stop agency to provide SMEs with advisory on the various funding schemes the government has made available. And this is very important because if you ask many individuals and enterprises, are there help and resources? They are plentiful. However, to navigate through what scheme and what program can best help you sometimes take more than just a compass and a street directory. And Spring Singapore has a very good system, and I think I could see more government agencies taking on such a more proactive role to make communication better, access more direct to people who need it, and help people to navigate through the various schemes and policies and deliver it quickly to their hands so that they can benefit faster.